now the host of Entertainment Now, Gail Scott Key.
Good evening. I am your host, Gail Scott Key, for Gail Scott Key's Entertainment Now with my co-hosts, Kristina Millsaps and Ritchie Munguia. This half hour, we are talking about extraordinary people who have been doing extraordinary things in the community. And in this half hour, I am bringing back a guest that I had the pleasure of speaking with and sharing his points of view with all of you. In the technology space, it's amazing. We're seeing how technology is taking over and how it is being applied in every facet of our lives, correct? Well, you can't deny it. But what we're not seeing is those at the helm, how they're making a big difference in the lives of those who are working at these companies. And I am so, so honored to have a dear, dear, wonderful friend. Also, he is my boss. That's right. I'm not only here, I'm all over. So when it comes to your data, we help to move it all over. We take it from your source, from the targets, and we help you explode into the new age because it's consistently changing. Well, since the last time that he was here, I'm having CEO Mike Capone of the software company Qlik, which is exploding, guys. It's exploding. We have events going on right now. It's headquartered in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And last time that Mike was on my show, he's seen it all from where he sits. And the reason I wanted to bring Mike here, the reason I wanted my co-hosts, Ritchie and Kristina, to meet him is because Mike is all for not only the company, but for the people who are behind the scenes, the people who are dedicated, because he is dedicated. He's very transparent, and he knows how I feel about him. I adore him. I absolutely have nothing but the most respect for him, not just because he is my boss, but because I love his work values, and he tells it like it is. From 2-3 years ago, take a trip back with me. Remember George Floyd? That was a horrific time. Everybody saw what happened. He spoke up. He went shoulder to shoulder with other companies and said, look, we're going to talk about inclusion. We're going to make a difference. And he has. Every single step of the way, he has. And also, when it came to the pandemic, now it's all different, right? Not everybody is back full 100%. We have now, it's like this hybrid model. Well, what does that mean? How effective is it? Well, let me not take the words from him, but let me have the honor of introducing CEO of Qlik, Mike Capone. Mike, thank you for being here with me. You are amazing. And he's red for blushing, I know, and I can do this.
I am blushing, Gail.
That's her gift.
It's such a terrific honor to be here. I'm thrilled that you asked me back on your podcast, and now we have some terrific new co-hosts to get to chat with as well. And I don't know what to say about that super warm intro other than thank you. I'm very touched by your intro.
Well, it's the truth. You have been so transparent, and you have just been such a beacon of light for those in, not only for the way you have been guiding everybody at Qlik, but Qlik being such a wonderful company that is really taking force and storm in the technology age. Would you like to share a little bit more than I have done, because you're the person at the helm in making it all happen?
Sure. You did a wonderful job of introducing what we do as a company, and you're on the front lines talking to our customers every day. So I think you can articulate it better than anybody. I think the simple story is data is king right now, right? Companies, organizations, governments, not-for-profits, the ones that use data more successfully, smarter, are the ones that are going to compete and win and be more successful in the future. Now, that is not an unqualified statement, because you have to use data ethically, right? We all know the stories about companies and organizations that have used data in a questionable or unethical manner. We are not that. We don't sell your data. We don't make money off of holding your data. We just help you use your data better as a company or as an organization. And what we really try to do is just help you harness the power of data to make better decisions, get better insights, to either make your company better or in many cases with a lot of the nonprofits we work with, like the United Nations, hopefully make the world a better place.
Yes. And we've been doing that. I made sure to get some gifts for some kids because that's one thing that I love. We are just doing our part in dedication. So I got some Crocs. I haven't bought them myself personally, but I made sure some kids are wearing some Crocs. And that's what I love about the company. We're giving as much as we're getting, and that's what it's about. So I love the boomerang effect. And that's what we do. We have boomerangers who have come back to the company because they see what's going on. And your story is amazing because I'm also doing a book about people who have inspired people. And you've also created an insert for my book. And hopefully it will be out for this year. And your story was compelling. Would you like to share a little bit behind the technology, the man himself, about what inspired you to do what you do and how you are so relatable in so many ways to us?
Wow, sure. If there's ever a story I wanted to tell, it's this one, right? Which, there's this concept that every generation wants to make the world a better place for the generation coming after them, the generation they're leaving behind. And I was just fortunate to be in that situation. My father, like a lot of Americans, was an immigrant. He came over, or his parents rather came over with him from Europe. But he grew up on welfare. He didn't have a lot growing up. And his typical American dream, he worked his way up in the world. He grew up in abject poverty, but he worked his way out of it. He lied about his age to go into the military, sent money back to his mother. But then he just took a job in the mailroom of a company. He got his accounting degree at night and became an accountant. Then a funny thing happened. Computers started to become a big thing. This is going back a ways. So you probably start to guess my age if you guess my father's age. The company he was working for, which is Standard Oil, a big oil company, bought a computer. They did not know what to do with it. They're like, okay, we got one. What do? We don't know what to do. So they gave everybody in the company a test. They said, who's got an aptitude to work with this thing? And my father scored off the charts. And he went from doing like basic accounting work to going to programming school to be one of the very first programmers of kind of mainframe computers. And from that job, just to expedite the story, he worked his way all the way up to be one of the first people who ever had the title of Chief Information Officer in a company ever in the world. And so my goal was always, if I could be half as successful as he was with twice as many breaks that he got, like that would be a good life. Like that would be a good life for me. I'd call that a win. And I've been very fortunate to have people in my life who've helped me do that. But when you asked me the question, who inspired you? I didn't have to think hard about it. It was my father for sure.
Wow, what a great story. Mike, this is Ritchie. It's the first time I'm meeting you. And I do have a background in tech. And I'm not going to give away my age because I'm dark. I'm putting color on my beard and all that good stuff to hide it. But I'll say this, I remember when computers were so big, and I remember, later on in life, I started working for Verio, which at that time was the world's largest web hosting company. It wasn't who they are. I remember co-location, and I remember how at one point, people were having a hard time. They wanted to touch all their hardware and stuff. And one of the things that really struck me as you spoke, and you were talking about your dad, and your dad being one of the first C-level executives, and the use of data. And one of the things that really struck me is trust is a big thing as it relates to your personal brand and also as it relates to your organizational brand. If you're managing people's data, and you said that right away, when computers started to boom, I remember giving tours in where IBM developed the first PC, and just kind of it's weird, like you've got to scan stuff to get in the doors and everything else. And trust is, I think that's one of the things that really stand out to me because, and I see that trust happens because culture in an organization always trickles from the top down. If the executives of the company have good morals, if the executives believe in diversity, if the executives believe in being responsible with the data, then that flows downhill. Just like if the executives say it's going to be conservative and we're going to wear you can't walk in flip-flops as, one of the reps in the mailroom and go, we're going to change the way we're dressed in this company. No, it doesn't work like that. It's from the top down. And it's really nice to see that. Did your father also influence you as it relates to your good character? To believe that that's what you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been fortunate, it started with my father for sure. And, he was a deeply religious man, but he was just a deeply ethical man. And, again, like he grew up in Hell's Kitchen in New York City, back, in the, he was born in the 20s. So, 30s, 40s. It was not, it would have been easy to take a different path, right? There's a lot of criminal things going on, and, he very easily got caught up in that. He never did. And he carried that all the way through his business life. And it imparted on me and, and my family and my sisters. And that's been helpful. And then even once I launched my business career, the first company I worked at, which was a company called ADP. Everybody, if you don't know ADP, you do know ADP, because if you're over 18 years old, you ever got a job and got a paycheck, like, ADP, because ADP is the largest processor of paychecks in the world.
Right.
And guess what? We knew who everybody was. Like, we were the original cloud computing company and we had data on everybody. Like we just did. And I remember the executives of ADP that I first worked with, and the company was founded by two brothers in New Jersey, and then also a gentleman named Frank Lautenberg. Frank Lautenberg is very famous because he ended up being a senator in New Jersey. But from day one, they held the belief that, like, this is an awesome responsibility. We're going to hold the information of all these people. And then we have this awesome responsibility to pay. By the time I was in the CTO spot there, 50 million people every payday. We were material to this economy. And that ethical, awesome, like, responsibility always stuck with me. And then subsequently, when I went to smaller companies who maybe thought maybe we could play fast and loose a little more, hey, look at Facebook. They're making a lot of money on data. Look at Google. Like, they're selling information on you. They're tracking you. The answer for me was always, no, that's not the business I want to run. The business I want to run is I'm going to help make you successful, but your data, your identity, Ritchie, what you said, like your brand, your person, that's you. That's you. And we'll help you be successful, but we're not going to be successful by selling your brand.
I love that. Because I do believe trust, and it does take time. I work with a lot of sensitive information with people. It is such a good thing to know that. How did that transition into and I feel like I'm hogging the stage here, but I'm super excited because I come from a background in tech too, and, and building businesses. How did that transition to now taking up civil causes that are important and saying, in our company, we're going to also not just trust, but we're also going to stand up for some things,
Yeah, look, if I had to, this is my first CEO job, and I took it in 2018, and by the way, things were pretty simple back then at the time, right? It just, tech was ripping and things were going great. And then if you had told me, like, here's what the next 5 years are going to look like, there's going to be a global pandemic, there's going to be massive civil unrest, now there's going to be a recession, hyperinflation, a war, like, I'd say maybe those aren't the 5 years that I really want to be first-time CEO, right? This created some challenges. The thing that has served me well, the thing that has always served me well is, the leadership style of, so this servant leader where, you lead from the front, but you have to listen. You just have to listen to your employees, and you really have to have the pulse of the company and listen to the heartbeat of what's going on. And I don't take credit for any of the things that Gail likes to give me credit for in terms of how I led the company through it, because I had 2,500 people helping me, because I just kept my ears open and my ears to the ground. And I listened to what the employees wanted and needed. And I got lots of great advice from people like Gail and others. And that helped me shape a style, which is, okay, I understand now what we need to do to get through this as a community, as a company, and how we need to support each other through this. And we may not all agree on, everything that happens. We had a similar situation break out when the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade. But what we did do was we listened and we created a very safe forum for people to talk about things and to express themselves. And then we formed employee research groups that specialize in certain areas to help with that. And that's kind of it, Rich. I wish it would, I'd love to say, like, I'm a better leader than most. I'm not. I think what I am maybe is a better listener than maybe most.
He's humble. He is so humble.
Yeah. It does remind me of the old IBM. I think IBM said it first when they said, we don't bring in people that are better than us to tell them what to do, but so they can tell us what to do. And it reminds me of that. He's basically saying, you are being humble, but you're also saying, hey, it really is a group effort, even though I have a certain role in the organization. Yeah. I do admire that. I'm going to have to learn from you. You're going to have to become one of my mentors.
You're happy to. The woman, I had a mentee at ADP going way back. She was just the head of sales of one of our business units. This is going back 15 years. She just became CEO this quarter, like literally. Probably one of my proudest moments of my life, not because, I had a disproportionate influence. She was going to get there anyway, most likely, but just the fact that I got to know her over time and she elevated and became the first female CEO in the company's history. It's a big company, just tremendous.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Gail has really, and I imagine all of your other employees feel this too, she's talked a lot about the impact you've made with after the George Floyd upset with diversity and inclusion. And she was telling us about that there was a recent study with Accenture, and the study showed that 68% of leaders believe that they create an empowering environment, but only 36% of employees agree. So I know that that's not the case at your company. And so I'm wondering, how have you as a CEO seen the shift since the things you've introduced into the workplace?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And you know what, Kristina, I'm gonna go back and ask that very question to my employees, because while we can infer, I think the vibe would be that we're better than that, than that survey of most companies would say. But I'm going to go be sure now, because it's a good thing to go ask. A lot of companies, and I've been in different companies, and there's kind of a right way to do D&I and maybe a less right way to do it. And the less right way to do it is to show it off, right? Like there's a lot of companies that they brag a lot about it, they talk a lot about it, and we don't really do that, right? Like we're not interested in looking good. We're just really interested in being good, right? And so what we really try to do is monitor how people are feeling about it every minute of every day, and is it really resonating with people? And we've got these kind of feedback loops, and Gail knows this. I do. In the course of a month, I'll do, 30 skip level meetings with various people across the organization, and just try to keep my ear to the ground and say, okay, is it working? What can we do better? And it's that kind of constant feedback loop that we get. And then we just use it to make the company better. But what we don't do is we don't use it as hey, look at us, we're showing we're great. We've got all this D&I stuff going on. That's actually a turnoff for employees, I think, my impression. So I mean, I'm almost you can see, I'm not comfortable totally bragging about it, talking about it, because I just think it's so necessary for the company that I couldn't imagine not having it at this point.
That's so true, Mike. And that's what you emulate. And that's what I personally love about being part of Qlik, being part of the whole family, and having you at the helm, because you're absolutely right. And, with the time that we have, talking about changes, as you said, fast forwarding into COVID, it's thrust us into new waters, right? For the hybrid model and such. And, that's one thing that Qlik has also recognized and been very gracious about, for coming into the office, for seeing that change. You're with all of us saying, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I'm right there with you. In your opinion, especially with manufacturing, the essential businesses that were already working and going forward with keeping their employees, the workforce, retaining, what are some things that you've seen? What are some things that you're looking to foresee in the future? And how do you feel that these changes have benefit in some ways for us?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is there's this debate / controversy about, return to work, return to the office. And it's often discussed in isolation. And I think that's a huge mistake, right? And I think, you hear that, you see articles every day, like, oh, this company just demanded everybody comes back to work, this company. Look, that is a dimension of all this, but you have to look at this thing holistically, right? And, so we've tried to tackle it in a much broader sense of what is the overall mental well-being of our workforce, right? What are the psychological impacts of not coming to the office? During the pandemic, people were stressed, childcare, and people being sick. And so, as you know, Gail, we launched a whole bunch of things. We launched a series of programs to help with mental health. People could talk to therapists and specialists online. We also invested a whole lot in coaching our managers to make sure they were checking in on their employees. Are you okay? How are you doing? Don't just start with the meeting, like, okay, what are the numbers? How's the business? Start with, are you okay? Like, are you doing okay? Even though the world is better now, we're still trying to hold to that, which is the overall wellness of the company, the psychological state of the company is really, really important. And so that's what we've tried to do. And now as we think about, okay, should we start encouraging more people to come back in because we want more collaboration? It's in that context. It makes it so much easier to have that dialogue when you've taken care of the entire platform and not just made it all about come back or don't come back. And again, we're doing all that in the context of listening. I was up visiting you guys not too long ago, doing town halls and talking to people. I was up over in the UK doing the same thing and just getting feedback. And you know what? It's completely not simple. Like, there's some people who are dying to come back and wish everybody was back. There's some people who are perfectly happy to not come back. And we just need to be open to not one size fits all. That's what I would say.
And of course, Mike, when you're talking about coming back to the office, we had Waltham, we have a mascot who is a big turkey. Big turkey. big turkey. I remember the first time in the window, I just saw it go by and I was like, I think I just saw our dinner go by. Mike, you are amazing. And I always love having you on, and I definitely want to have you back. And also, I know that we have events going on at Qlik. They are everybody who are in the Midwest. We are doing this partnership, especially with our AWS and Microsoft. Have to give the plug, guys. You know this to be true. Yes. And of course, it is just phenomenal. We have great teams, as Mike has talked about, and Mike being one of them. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us. And of course, there are always questions, because the last time I had Mike on, you guys had sent some questions in. So guess what? So now you can see Mike. He's going to be on the show, and that is going to be on YouTube. And Kristina, if you would do the honors of saying the podcast that he will also be listened to as well for the show.
Yes, we have lots. We have lots to choose from. I think everybody's a part of some kind of podcast where you can find it. We are on iTunes, Amazon, Google, Listen Notes, Player FM, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Audible. So I think there's something for everybody here. So we're everywhere. So we're going to get the word out about Qlik, Mike.
That's amazing.
You'll have a lot of people, I think, rushing to work there by this interview that you've just done with us.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Mike, we certainly hope you and yours have a wonderful, safe, and happy holidays. Can't even believe we're in the December month. I'm going to go shopping for you. I just can't tell you what we're going to get you. Sorry. Can't tell you. But you're amazing. Thank you again. Thank you for your wonderful example that you set for us. And Mike is one of our featured extraordinary people that we have. And we are honored to feature him on our show, to introduce him to you. And if you'd like to have someone featured on the show, Kristina Millsaps, she's the one to talk to. Kristina Millsaps at Elite Public. Help me.
Public image.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll put it up too on the website. I mean, going across the bottom so people can see.
Absolutely. Mike Capone, thank you so much with Qlik. And you can visit him at qlik.com. That's QLIK.com. And on behalf of myself, with Kristina and Ritchie Munguia, thank you so much for tuning in this half hour. And we'll see you again in the next week.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Great pleasure.